They thought you were behind, but you were right on divine schedule. There's something they don't tell you when you're walking a path that's different from everyone else's. They don't tell you that the silence, the stillness, the waiting, what the world calls falling behind, is often the most sacred preparation of your life. They don't tell you that when you seem to be standing still, you're actually aligning with something far greater. The world moves fast. It rewards speed, urgency, performance. It praises the ones who check boxes early, who reach milestones young, who accumulate titles, wealth, followers, and status before a certain age. And when you're not on that track, when you're taking your time, healing, questioning, listening to your soul instead of the timeline, people start to whisper. They start to wonder what's wrong with you. They start to doubt you. And worst of all, you start to doubt yourself. But here's the truth that flips the entire narrative. You were never behind. You were right on divine schedule. You weren't being delayed. You were being developed. And development doesn't always look impressive from the outside. Sometimes it looks like solitude, like uncertainty, like breaking down everything you thought you were so you could become who you really are. That part, that unseen, quiet, messy part, that's where the real preparation happens. That's where the divine chisels you, not for a quick win, but for a lasting legacy.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
I want you to think about this. What if the very things you thought were setbacks were actually sacred setups? What if the relationship that fell apart wasn't a failure but a filter, removing what couldn't go with you into your purpose? What if the job you didn't get was a divine reroute to something far more aligned with your soul? What if the time you spent healing, grieving, learning and unlearning was not wasted time, but the exact curriculum your spirit needed to fulfill its mission? Everyone talks about growth, but no one talks about divine timing, about the fact that you can't rush the unfolding of a soul. You can't microwave spiritual maturity. You can't force wisdom. That comes through experience, through surrender, through the quiet seasons that feel like nothing is happening, but everything is. That's when the roots are growing deeper. That's when the foundation is being built. And if the foundation isn't solid, the rise will collapse under its own weight. You see, the world teaches us to chase timelines, to race to the top, to compare our journey to everyone else's highlight reel. But the soul is not on a deadline. Your spirit doesn't care if you're 25 or 45 or 65. It cares about alignment, about readiness, about depth. And depth takes time. So stop measuring your life by the world's clocks. You are on divine schedule, and divine timing is never late. Have you ever noticed how some people get everything they thought they wanted, and they're still empty, still restless, still searching? That's what happens when you chase the outer world without anchoring in the inner one. But you were called to something different. That's why your journey has taken longer. That's why things haven't come easy. Because you weren't just building a life. You were building a soul. You weren't just preparing for a job, a relationship, a success story. You were being refined by the universe to carry a frequency that this world desperately needs. And that frequency, your energy, your essence, your medicine, it can't be rushed. Because once it arrives, it changes everything. When you finally step into your moment, it won't just be a personal win, it'll be a ripple in the collective. People will feel you, not because you shouted the loudest, but because your presence will carry truth, depth, realness. That is what the world is starving for. And that's what your delay was preparing you for. So let them think you were behind, let them whisper, let them wonder. Because by the time they realize what was really happening, it'll be undeniable. You weren't delaying, you were becoming. And when divine timing hits, it hits fast. What took years of inner work can manifest in days. What felt impossible for so long suddenly flows. Not because you forced it, but because you waited for the right wave. You aligned with the current of your soul. You've got to understand something. The universe doesn't care about optics. It cares about essence. And your essence was never meant to be rushed. That's why you had to take that detour. That's why you had to sit in the unknown. That's why you had to watch others rise while you stayed hidden. Because what's being built inside you is not just for a moment, it's for a movement. So let me ask you something. Are you willing to trust that your delay was divine? Are you willing to believe that your slower path was actually the sacred one? Are you willing to see your pain, your pauses, your process not as punishment, but as preparation for something far bigger than you imagined? Because if you can hold that truth, if you can really own it, then you'll stop comparing, you'll stop rushing, you'll stop apologizing for where you are. You'll start listening to the rhythm of your soul instead of the noise of the world. And from that place, you'll move differently, you'll speak differently, you'll create differently. Because you'll know you're not behind, you're right on time. Why the hidden years were the holiest. The power of being unseen before you're revealed. There's something sacred about the seasons when no one is watching, when no one is clapping for you, when no one is reposting your quotes or validating your process. It's uncomfortable, yes. It can feel lonely, uncertain, even painful. But those hidden years, those stretches of time when it seems like nothing is happening, are often the holiest, because that's when the divine is doing its deepest work, not in the spotlight, not on the stage, but in the quiet chambers of your becoming. We often crave visibility, thinking it will validate us. We imagine that when we're finally seen, finally praised, finally understood, we'll feel whole. But what if the hiding wasn't punishment? What if it was protection? What if the reason you were hidden was because you were still being formed? Because if the world had seen you too soon, they would have celebrated a version of you that wasn't fully ready, fully rooted, fully real, and the divine loves you too much to let you be exposed before you're established. This is the mystery of divine timing. Not only does it delay things until the moment is right, it hides you until you are right, until your identity is no longer entangled with applause, until your voice is no longer shaped by outside noise, until your truth is so anchored in your being, no amount of rejection, praise, or misunderstanding can shake it. That's what the hidden years are for. They break you open. They strip away the inauthentic. They bring you a face-to-face with yourself in raw, honest ways. And in that sacred isolation, the divine shapes you into someone who can carry the weight of your calling without crumbling under it. Think about it. Every great soul has gone through a hidden season. Jesus spent 30 years in obscurity before 3 years of ministry. Buddha left everything behind and sat in silence beneath a tree. Even the caterpillar, before it becomes a butterfly, must retreat into a cocoon, dissolving into something unrecognizable before it can emerge. The world might call that waste, but heaven calls it preparation. Deep, holy, necessary preparation. You weren't idle in those hidden years. You were being initiated. While people thought you were lost, you were being found. While they thought you were confused, you were being clarified. While they saw delay, the divine was designing your destiny with precision. Every tear, every journal entry, every late-night prayer, every moment you doubted yourself but somehow kept going. It all mattered. It all built something in you that can't be taught in books or earned through hustle. It built substance, and substance is what makes you unshakable when the spotlight finally comes. Because here's the thing, visibility without inner grounding is dangerous. Fame without formation is fragile. If you had been seen too soon, you might have molded yourself to fit what people wanted instead of who you really are. But now you're different. Now you've been through the fire. You've sat in silence long enough to know your own voice. You've faced your shadows. You've chosen healing over hiding. You've learned how to be your own sanctuary. And that's why, when the divine says it's time, you'll walk into the next chapter with peace, not performance. So instead of resenting the years you went unseen, honor them. Instead of wishing you had been discovered earlier, bless the time you were held in divine incubation, because everything that's real, everything that lasts, everything that truly changes the world is born in the dark before it's revealed in the light. The tree grows its roots long before it bears fruit. The artist sketches in secret before the masterpiece is unveiled. The healer bleeds in private before they touch others with their medicine. Let me ask you something. What if the years you thought were wasted were actually the years that saved you? What if being hidden wasn't a delay, it was a divine strategy to protect your essence until you were strong enough to carry it fully? You see, when you're hidden, you learn the most important lesson of all, that your worth is not in your visibility, it's not in your followers, your fame, your productivity, it's in your being. And once you know that, once you really know that, no one can take it from you. That's when you become dangerous to darkness. That's when you become a vessel of light. So if you're still in your hidden season, don't rush out of it. Don't despise it. Use it. Let it deepen you. Let it refine your motives. Let it teach you how to love yourself without needing an audience. Because when the time comes, and it will come, you won't just be ready, you'll be radiant. From delay to destiny, how to recognize when divine timing is finally unfolded. There comes a moment, subtle but unmistakable, when the air around you shifts. It's not loud, it's not always dramatic, but something in your spirit knows things are aligning. After what feels like an eternity of waiting, of wondering if it was all in vain, signs begin to emerge. Conversations unfold that feel divinely timed. Doors that had been shut for years creak open without you even knocking. People start appearing, people you didn't chase, but who carry keys to the next chapter of your journey. And you realize with a quiet certainty, this is it. This is what the delay was preparing me for. But here's the paradox. When divine timing begins to unfold, it doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it looks like peace, like clarity, like a deep inner knowing that you no longer need to force anything. You're not scrambling, you're not chasing, you're simply aligning. The anxiety that once filled your chest begins to dissolve, not because all the answers have arrived, but because you've finally learned to trust the unfolding. That trust, that surrender, it's the first proof that destiny is near. We think destiny is a destination, a big moment, a breakthrough, and sometimes it is, but more often it's a series of small sacred affirmations from the universe that whisper, "You're ready now." You'll notice it in the way your energy shifts. The things that once drained you no longer hook you. The people you used to bend for, suddenly their approval doesn't carry the same weight. You begin to feel stronger in your yes and even more powerful in your no. That's not ego, that's alignment. That's your soul stepping into its rightful rhythm. One of the clearest signs that divine timing is unfolding is this. You stop feeling the need to rush. There is a calm that takes over you, a holy confidence. You realize that what's meant for you is not just coming, it's already here. It may not have fully materialized yet, but you feel it in your bones. You start waking up differently, not with dread or doubt, but with anticipation. Even on the hard days, there's a thread of expectancy woven into your heart. That's not delusion, that's intuition. That's your spirit picking up on what your eyes can't yet see. And yet, when things begin to align, a new kind of fear can creep in. After so many years of delay, of hiding, of silence, receiving your destiny can feel overwhelming. You wonder if you're really ready, if you're really worthy. You question whether you're strong enough to hold what you've been asking for. This too is a sacred part of the process, because divine timing doesn't just bring blessings, it brings responsibility, and you must decide if you're willing to show up fully for what you once prayed for. Let me ask you this. Are you prepared to receive what you once begged the universe for? Are you ready to be seen, to be stretched, to be used in ways that might terrify your ego but liberate your soul? Because destiny is not convenience, it's calling. And it will ask more of you than the delay ever did. The delay required patience, but destiny, it requires courage. When divine timing begins to move, you will feel both the excitement and the weight of it. Opportunities will come that feel like they were designed just for you, but they will require you to shed old versions of yourself. You'll be asked to rise, to speak when you used to stay silent, to lead when you used to follow, to trust when you used to control. And in those moments, you'll understand the delay wasn't a punishment, it was preparation for this very test. And if you're paying attention, you'll pass not by striving, but by surrender. Another sign your divine timing is blooming is synchronicity. Not coincidence, synchronicity. The right message at the right time. A stranger's words echoing a thought you had the night before. A book falling off the shelf with the exact teaching you needed. An invitation that seems random but ends up changing your entire trajectory. These are not accidents. These are guideposts. Breadcrumbs from the divine, leading you home to yourself. So when this season arrives, and it will, don't shrink, don't second guess, don't sabotage. You've waited too long, grown too deep, healed too much to play small now. Receive it, own it, move with it, trust it, because this isn't just about you. Your alignment is a permission slip for others. Your courage creates ripples. Your yes becomes someone else's breakthrough. That's the beauty of divine timing. It doesn't just bless you, it awakens others through you. So, I'll ask again. Can you recognize the moment when delay turns to destiny? And will you be brave enough to answer the call when it comes knocking, not with noise, but with a sacred whisper that says, "Now, it's your time"? The unseen equation, why your struggles were secret ingredients to your spiritual authority. There's a reason the ones with the deepest presence are often the ones who've walked through the darkest valleys. There's a reason the voices that carry the most weight are the ones who once felt silenced. You can feel it, can't you? When someone speaks not from theory, but from experience. When wisdom isn't memorized, it's lived. That's what your struggles have given you. Not weakness, not shame, but authority. A spiritual authority that doesn't need to shout to be heard because it carries the vibration of truth, of survival, of transformation. You may not have realized it at the time, but every heartbreak, every failure, every sleepless night spent questioning your path was an ingredient in a sacred alchemy. You weren't just surviving, you were being initiated. And spiritual authority only comes through that kind of fire. The kind you wouldn't have chosen, but somehow didn't destroy you. In fact, it revealed you. We often think that to lead, to guide, to be a light for others, we need perfection. But the truth is, your scars are your credentials. Your stumbles are your sermon. People don't need your polished surface, they need your real. They need to know they're not alone in their mess, that someone else has faced the dark and found light on the other side. That's where your authority is born, in the places you thought disqualified you. That's the unseen equation. The pain you thought was pointless was preparing you to hold power with compassion. You can't fake depth. You can't fabricate presence. It either lives in you or it doesn't, and it's birthed in those long nights of the soul, when you were stripped of your masks, when you had no answers, when you were forced to meet your truest self in the mirror. That version of you, the one that kept going even when no one was watching, that version carries something sacred. That's who people feel when you speak. That's what they trust, not your image, your essence. So, if you've ever wondered why your journey was so hard, so winding, so full of detours, it's because your spirit was being trained to carry real medicine. Not the kind that impresses, but the kind that heals. The kind that touches people in places they've kept hidden for years. You can only do that if you've been there yourself. You can only guide through the storm if you've walked through it barefoot, broken, and still found a way to rise. Let me ask you something. What if the thing you've been most ashamed of is the very thing someone else is praying for a solution to? What if your struggle is someone else's survival guide waiting to be shared? This is where your divine timing comes full circle. Because now you're not just stepping into your destiny, you're stepping into your assignment. And your assignment is not to be perfect, it's to be real. To let your journey speak. To let your healing be seen. To let your life become a living transmission of what's possible when grace meets grit. The world doesn't need more highlight reels. It needs more human beings who've walked through fire and still radiate love, who can say, "I've been there," and mean it. Who can hold space without fixing, listen without judging, and lead without needing to be above anyone. That, the authority your struggle has given you, and no platform, no degree, no follower count can manufacture that. So don't regret the road you've walked. Don't curse the detours. Don't hide your hard-earned wisdom, because it's exactly what makes you who you are. And who you are is needed right now, right here. Not some future version of you. You as you are, with your cracks, your courage, your compassion. They thought you were behind, but you were right on divine schedule. And now you don't just carry your story, you embody it. That is your gift. That is your power. That is your spiritual authority, and it's time to let it speak.